All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the third installment of the Student Circles webinar series. And this one is titled Show Me the Money, Advice on Obtaining External Funding. So we're gonna just jump right into it. Without further ado, we have Effua Sosoo first.
Okay. Wait, do they see my face? Perfect. Hi, I'm Effua Sosoo. I'm in my second year of a PhD program in clinical psychology at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And just a brief overview of my interests, I'm really excited about examining racial discrimination and physiological reactivity, so how our bodies respond to the stress of racial discrimination. I also have pet interests in forensic psychology, and I seek to provide therapy to minority and low-income populations. So I currently have the National Science Foundation Predoctoral Fellowship, and this is a fellowship that supports outstanding graduate students in NSF-supported science, technology, engineering, and mathematic disciplines who are pursuing research-based master's and doctoral degrees at accredited U.S. institutions, and that's straight from the website. So this fellowship offers $34,000 a year for 3 years, and there's a $12,000 cost of education allowance. And so what that means is you never see that $12,000. That goes straight to the university, and that covers your tuition and any fees. And also there's a 5-year fellowship period. So I know I just said it's $34,000 for 3 years, but it's a 5-year fellowship period because you have 5 years to use up all that funding. So you can go on the fellowship the first year you get it, defer it for a year, go back on it, defer it for another year, and go back on it, if that makes sense. And at the bottom is the website in case you want to check this fellowship out. So please consider applying if 1, you're a US citizen, 2, you don't have a graduate degree. So if you already hold a master's degree, unfortunately, you're not eligible for this fellowship. Also, if you're a member of an underrepresented group, they're really excited about diversifying those who are on tenure for the NSF fellowship. So try to make that clear in your personal statement. You don't, obviously at the beginning, you have to be like, I am Black or whatever minority group you're from. But one thing I did was I spoke about my experiences experiencing stereotype threat in the classroom as an African-American female. And so that's how I conveyed to them my racial status, I guess. Also consider applying if your field of study is research-based. So if you are doing any sort of research that involves a lot of treatment and treatment outcomes, you might not be eligible. I know when I was first applying for grad school, I was considering counseling psychology programs, and the reason that I ultimately did not accept admission into one of those programs is because I knew that if I did get the NSF, I wouldn't be able to use it there. So on their website, they have like a program announcement, and in there it tells you all the fields of study that are not eligible. Also consider applying if you want more control over your time. So this goes for, I think, all the fellowships that will be discussed this evening. If you don't want to TA, or even if you do want to TA with some of these fellowships, you can definitely still TA. But if you don't want to be forced to TA or to have part-time jobs or to be an RA for your advisor, this is a great way to take control of your time, to devote more time to research or clinical work or whatever your interests are. And then finally, if you want to pursue a research career, so if you're interested in going into academia, but also if you're not interested in pursuing a research career, you should still definitely apply for this fellowship. Honestly, it looks good. It looks great to say that you have an NSF or any of these other fellowships that will be discussed this evening. In terms of recommendations for applying, make sure that you read the program solicitation. It is very easy not to do this, to gloss over details, but you want to make sure you read that program solicitation in detail. This will help to strengthen your application, and it will also help you figure out if you're even eligible, because you don't want to spend the time applying if you're not eligible. You also want to start early. So there are 3 components of this fellowship. There's a personal statement, a graduate research plan statement, and some reference letters that you have to get from folks. It takes time to do all of this. You want to let your reference writers know ahead of time that you're interested in applying. In terms of your personal statement and your graduate research plan, both of those need to be equally tight. They are both equally important, and so you want to make sure you have time to craft them, that you have time to get feedback, and that you have time to do several drafts. I probably had at least 10 drafts for each of those, and I'm not exaggerating, unfortunately. Also, related to your reference letters, you want to know your recommenders. So one, you want to make sure you ask for a strong letter of recommendation. You don't want anyone writing a recommendation and giving you something shoddy unbeknownst to you. You also want to make sure that they are more than someone who you just had for a class and you sat in the back and they barely know your name. You want to make sure these are people that know about your work, know that you do good work, and that you've had some positive and consistent interactions with. Also, if possible, you want to look at applications from previous awardees. So I'm happy to send folks my materials if that's helpful to you, but that's what I did. I looked at other people's applications and I was looking for consistent themes, trying to figure out what worked for people, what didn't work, etc. Also, you want to remember to sell yourself, not just your research proposal. So like I said, your personal statement is important. And while your graduate research plan does need to be tight, even if you have a really good research idea, that's not enough. They're not supporting your study, because a lot of people don't even do the study they said they would. They're supporting you as a researcher. So do remember to sell yourself. Also, you want to nail the broader impacts and intellectual merit section. So when you go on the NSF site, you'll see more about what these two aspects of the application are. Broader impacts is just how your research a broader impact, how it's going to impact the world, how it's going to impact the field and the literature. And the intellectual merit section is about the novelty of your work, why this study is needed, how it's going to further the field. You want to make sure that you really hone in on those areas. And then you also want to make sure your application is easy to read and follow. So one thing I did, I labeled my sections, I italicized things that I wanted them to notice. And one piece of advice I received from someone who's reviewed NSF applications, she said that you should write your application as though you're writing for someone who's just had 2 glasses of wine and is about to read your application, because these folks are not waking up at 7 a.m. trying to go in on your application. Like, they have lives, they have jobs, so make it easy to follow. Also, like I said before, get feedback, rewrite, and then get more feedback. Persistence pays off. I applied for the NSF, I think, twice and got it on my 2nd time. So I highly suggest being persistent, but then at the same time, there's a new rule now, right? So you have 1 shot to get this fellowship. So maybe what you might want to do is focus on that persistence when it comes to like the draft aspect of it, knowing that you only have 1 shot. Feel free to reach out. This is my email address. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stick around for questions and answers, but I'm more than happy to give you more information. And also, we were supposed to have someone talk about the Ford Foundation Predoctoral Fellowship, but unfortunately, she's not able to make it. I also just received that fellowship this year, and I received it on my 3rd time applying, so honing in on the persistence pays off thing again. So I'm also happy to answer questions about that fellowship. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Effua. And now we're going to have Angie.
Can you hear me? All right, my name is Angie, and I am actually in my 7th year of graduate school related to this grant, which I'll get into. I'm also in clinical psychology at the University of Missouri, and my research focuses on risk factors for developing alcoholism, specifically family history status, so whether or not you have a family history of alcoholism, and also impulsivity. I'm also interested in drug and alcohol addiction treatment and studying racial and ethnic minority substance use and treatment, and I'm interested in meta-analysis as well. All right, so the fellowship that I'm going to talk about today is the National Institutes of Health National Research Service Award, also known as an F31. So as those of you who are aware of what the National Institute of Health, there are multiple institutes that fall under NIH, and the fellowship that I applied for was through the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, or NIAAA. So this is also known as an F31. It's a predoctoral research grant. I applied for 2 years and got 2 years of funding. This, the funding covers both tuition and fees, $23,000 a year for an annual stipend, and also an institutional allowance. This institutional allowance may cover health insurance depending on your institution. You can also use those funds for books. You can use it for travel to conferences or workshops or software. There is a cap of $4,200, and so at our institution, our health insurance is just under $3,000, and so you can see the bulk of that is taken up by health insurance, and then what's remaining is what we can use for other expenses related to the project that we presented. There are 3 deadlines each year in which you can submit an NIH or an F31 application. The deadlines are April 8th, August 8th, and December 6th. There is, I believe there's a limit to 2 times that you can submit your project. You can submit again, but you just have to call it something else. It would be considered a new submission. So in my case, I did submit my grant twice. So I had to do like a revise and resubmit, if you will. And so I submitted my grant in the December 8th deadline in 2013 and received my feedback after the April 8th deadline. So I had to wait until August 8th to resubmit. And also during that time, it's kind of unusual because the government shut down. But my grant didn't get funded until June of 2015. And so you want to be applying for this early so that you have time to go through the submission process. And in my situation, my grant got funded in my 5th year, and I decided to stay those 2 years to fulfill the grant funding. 7th year. So on the next slide. All right, so you should consider applying if, 1, you have the resources to conduct the proposed research project. This is really important because this grant does not provide any funding for the research that you propose. So you need to have access to all the resources that you need through your institution, whether it be through your advisor or maybe you're collecting data through a Psych 1000 pool or something like that, because they don't provide any funds for you to actually do the research. Also, unfortunately, this grant is limited to US citizens or permanent residents. It's important that you establish that you're committed to a career as an independent research scientist. This would be based on the letters that or the documentation that you complete as part of your application and also through your letter writers. Also must at least have a bachelor's degree, and you must be enrolled in a PhD program or an equivalent program. I applied, so there are multiple F31s. I applied for the F31 specifically to enhance diversity. And how they define diversity is based on racial and ethnic minority status, specifically for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Native Hawaiians, and other Pacific Islanders. These are considered individuals who are underrepresented in the research field. Individuals with disabilities, and they have a specific definition of that on the website, and you can find that on the link that I provided on this slide. So things that I would recommend, similar to what Effua suggested, start early. You know, if you want to get out in 5 years, you might want to consider thinking about what your project might be in your 1st or 2nd year and try to submit it in your 3rd year so you have that time to go through the revision cycle and not have to stay for as many years as I will be in graduate school. It's key that you identify a sponsor, and you know, many people in our program have co-sponsors. If you can identify a sponsor who has a history of NIH funding, that will help increase your chances of getting it. Unfortunately, it is a situation where the rich get richer. And so people who already have the history of obtaining NIH funding are going to have a better chance of obtaining it in the future. You also will include consultants who can provide you with guidance on your project based on their specialties. And then you need to identify 3 letter writers. It's also important to be aware of the components of the grant, which include specific aims, a research strategy, and a biosketch. There are other components as well that you can find on the website. The specific aims is by far the most important. I mean, this is a 1-page document that I spent the most time on because it highlights what my project, the aims of my project are, and then also my training aims. And it's very important. I got the most feedback on this and had the most revisions on that project, or on that component of the application. You also want to speak with your program officer. It's a good idea to call your program officer and run your research project idea by them to get a sense of whether or not this is something that NIH is funding, if they feel it gets fundable, if they might suggest any tweaks to your application to increase the chance that it would get funded, and also to put your name on their radar. And then, of course, you want to create a training plan. This includes additional workshops or coursework that you might include, and also any conferences that you might attend during the award period. And of course, revise, revise, revise. I sent out my application to, or components of my application to different people to have, even people who weren't aware of like the research I'm doing, just for like editorial comments, you know, just to make sure that everything is pretty competitive. So you want to do the best you can to be submitting, you know, a high quality application. And if you have any additional questions, or if you'd like me to send my materials to, if you're interested in writing an NIH grant, you know, please feel free to email me at any time, and I'd be happy to share that information with you.
All right, thank you so much, Angie, for sharing that information with us. Now we will have Yoanna.
Hi, my name is Yoanna McDowell. I'm a fourth-year graduate student in the clinical psychology program at the University of Missouri in Columbia. So my research interests include psychiatric nosology of substance use disorder. I also do some work looking at racial and ethnic health disparities, prevalence, and I have some interest in kind of looking at comorbidity and externalizing psychopathology, or the externalizing spectrum. So the fellowship I will be talking about is the NIH Research Supplements to Promote Diversity in Health-Related Research Diversity Supplement. So I'm just going to refer to it as a diversity supplement from here on out. But NIH is the same institution that Angie was talking about. So within the National Institutes of Health, there are sub-institutions. And the one that I'm applying through is through NIAAA, but this diversity supplement is available across multiple NIH institutes. So if you click on the link below, they'll have a full list of it. So the overall goal of the diversity supplement is to improve diversity of the research workforce. So that's people who maybe you aren't doing research that's related to diversity, but you are a member of a diverse group, meaning that you're part of an underrepresented racial ethnic group, or you have ADA disabilities, or you are from a disadvantaged background. These are the type of, this is the type of diversity that this supplement supports. So recruiting students, postdocs, and eligible investigators from these groups. And so what's nice about this award is that it's available across all levels, so up and starting at high school through postdoc, and even for early career investigators. So if there is a grant mechanism at your university or your institution, or there is a faculty member that has grant funded and you're interested in working with them, the diversity supplement is a way to add on to what they call the parent grant, or that already, to do your own work that's outside of the scope of the grant, but related. Again, with the hope of diversifying the research team, and not necessarily meaning that you have research that's related to diversity. So I realize now that kind of my considerations are a little bit shorter than others, but I would kind of echo everything that Effua and Angie said, but I would also add, for this particular fellowship, you must be a member of an underrepresented group, and you must also be interested in research, so biomedical or behavioral research. And it's also important to make sure that there is grant funding available. Unlike the other fellowships, it kind of needs, well, it does need some form of grant funding already established for you to apply to supplement it. So that's a very important thing. And then also that you have researchers willing to commit to your research and training. So again, unlike the other you might end up writing the diversity supplement, but the diversity supplement is supposed to come from the primary investigator of whatever parent grant you're interested in supplementing. So having their support and their willingness to mentor you and train you is key and crucial, because without that, they might not consider your request, because the idea of the supplement is that they'd be providing the resources as well as that one-on-one mentoring to allow you to flourish as an independent researcher of an underrepresented group. And so some recommendations: contact the program officer of the parent grant, as well as I wrote down Lynn Marin, who is currently the NIH Diversity Supplement Coordinator. This, I think, is really key, because in speaking with your PO or program officer or the Diversity Supplement Coordinator, you get a lot of insight on how to tailor your application so that it might be more likely to be funded. You also can get information on certain tweaks. For instance, with my supplement, the parent grant that I am interested in being a part of started in July 1. I didn't go over the dates, but the dates for the application for the diversity supplement is May 1 and February 1, and the start date would be August 1st. But after speaking with Lynn Marin, she was able to let us know that we could start it when the parent grant starts. So I guess my point is that there's a lot of information that you might not be privy to if you don't kind of get in contact with these people. I really recommend that. Also, you should be in contact, the potential mentors should be in contact with their PO. So not only should you be in contact with the PO, but the mentors should make sure that their program officer is aware that they're trying to write a diversity supplement, and that they're really committed to supporting you or this candidate. Again, I would recommend submitting a draft to the Diversity Supplement Coordinator or Lynn Marin. The reason I would recommend that is because it offers to review that and give you some insight on maybe where you can improve or enhance your application. So I think it's one of the rare opportunities you can have when applying for a fellowship, to have someone who's actually aligned with the process to give you that hands-on feedback. And to echo what Effua and Angie were saying, just get feedback. So revisions, getting as many eyes on it as possible just to make sure it's, the best it can be. So there's my email address. Feel free to email me if you have any other questions. I also have a PowerPoint that was created by the Diversity Supplement Coordinator that has more information on it. So I'd be willing to share that with anyone, as well as share any materials if you're interested in looking at a copy of an application.
All right, thank you so much, Yoanna. So before moving forward, I just want to remind everybody that's watching that you can ask questions about these sources of funding. There's a live chat feature on the right side of your screen. So at any point when a question comes up, feel free to plug it in and I'll read it, and we'll have time to answer questions after the last presenter. So next we will have some words from Jessica and Angie again.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Turral, and I apologize in advance for not being able to have a slide. I'll just leave it at that. I hope everyone is having a great day. So I am a fifth year, woo, praise the Lord, I'm almost finished at Loyola University of Maryland, and I'm currently on internship, and I am going to talk about the APA Minority Fellowship Program, MFP. My clinical interests are ethnic identity among African American juveniles who are incarcerated in adult prisons, really interested in youth charged as adults as well, and then substance use in urban communities. So I'll get started. I received the APA MFP grant prior to getting accepted to grad school. And so that's what I think is really great about MFP, is that you can get the the fellowship without even being admitted into grad school if you're waiting to hear back. I know some of the programs require that you're already in or that you have an acceptance letter, but I was very blessed and fortunate that I found out about, I applied for MFP and found out about MFP before I found out that I got into grad school, which was very funny and backwards, but very exciting for me. So I'll tell you a little bit about MFP, and then like everyone else, I have a Dropbox. Oh, dang, now I've lost the camera. I have a Dropbox folder that I'm more than willing to share with everyone that has all of my application materials, as well as all of my update materials. So the cool thing about MFP, if you want to positively reframe it, is that you reapply for funding every year. So once you get the MFP, you can get funding for up to 3 years, but each year you need to reapply for it. And so in my folder that I'm more than willing to share with everyone, I have the cover letters that I've used each year to reapply for funding. Okay, now, talk more specifically about MFP. I went to the actual website because I don't want to give anybody bad information, which you can find on the APA website because the money comes from APA. And there are other types of fellowship programs that I want to mention before I go specifically into the fellowship that I received. And so what I think can sometimes be confusing is that when people hear Minority Fellowship Program, or MFP, MFP, they only think that it's one program, but it's actually 3 fellowship opportunities. And so the fellowship that I received specifically was the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services Predoctoral Fellowship. They also have the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services Postdoctoral Fellowship, which is for early career doctoral recipients. And then there's the Services for Transition Age Youth, also known as STAY Fellowship. And this fellowship is for individuals who are pursuing a terminal master's degree. And so they offer 3 different fellowships. The one thing I do know is that you can apply for all 3 at one time. So you have to kind of choose which one that you want to apply for. But I guess you can't technically apply for all of them anyway, because you can't be a postdoc and a predoctoral person at the same time. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that MFP has a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful program called the Psychology Summer Institute, which I don't think a lot of people know about, which is a week-long intensive training program. And this deadline is not until May 1st. So you still have time this year to actually apply. And I participated in a summer program specifically for recipients of the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services Predoctoral Fellowship, but I was able to meet some of the people participating in PSI, which is what we call Psychology Summer Institute. And it was an amazing, intense week where individuals were flown out to DC and they were able to get like really good feedback on their dissertations and other research projects. And it's a really good opportunity, and the networking is really amazing. And then there is also Recovery to Practice, which is for individuals who are practicing psychologists. Okay, now let's go specifically to the predoctoral fellowship, which is the one that I received. And so to be eligible to receive this fellowship, you must be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or a non-citizen national. And it is not a requirement that the applicant identify as an ethnic minority. However, they say on the website, and I feel comfortable saying this because it's on the website, that African Americans, Alaskan Natives, American Indians, Asian Americans, Hispanic, and Latinos, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders are especially encouraged to apply. So you do not have to be a person with an ethnic minority identity. However, it is really encouraged that you do apply. So I'll let you all read between the lines and understand what that means. And like Effua said, it is very important that you somehow find a very smooth way to enter that into your cover letter or your application somewhere, that if you have an ethnic minority, that you want to kind of present that. Okay, see what else I would like to tell you all. Okay. There's also a big part of the Predoctoral Mental Health and Substance Abuse Service Fellowship that I really like to share with anyone that I've talked to about applying to this program is that it's funded through SAMHSA. So the substance abuse is a huge component of this fellowship. So you need to kind of be able to demonstrate in some type of way that you are committed to serving a population that has been impacted by substance use. And so for me specifically, I'm interested in individuals who have been incarcerated. And there's lots and lots and lots of research that says that the majority of individuals who are incarcerated, not only do they have a substance use, meet criteria for a substance use diagnosis, they also meet a criteria for a mental health diagnosis. And so even though I didn't specifically go to grad school to work with a substance using population, because those who are incarcerated happen to have a higher number of individuals who meet criteria, I was able to talk about my research in that way. And so I try to share with everyone, even if, let's say, you have never really thought that you specifically wanted to work with a population that like substance use work, if your population is impacted by substance use, whether it's if you're working with individuals, like if you like children and you want to work with children whose parents have had a substance use diagnosis or anything like that, if you're interested in working with individuals who are incarcerated, you just kind of want to clarify that in your cover letter and in your essays with statistics, I believe are very helpful to kind of demonstrate that you're still committed to their overall arching goal, which is substance abuse. Okay, now let's talk specifically about, so I will say that unfortunately, I cannot talk about money as previous people have, because the fellowship is really based on what type, so I'm just trying to think how to explain it. So they look at, oh here, I'll just read it right off the website. So it says, once applicants are accepted for the fellowship, it is expected that the applicant's graduate program will also provide additional support towards tuition, health insurance, and/or stipend. So what they do through this fellowship is they look at the money that you get from your school, and then they give you an amount based on what you have from your school. So I can't really say, like with the other fellowships, you will get $25,000 a year. You may get $25,000, you may get $10,000, you may get $5,000, but basically there is a number that they have access to that changes from year to year based on their funding. So like, let's say if one year the number was 31,000 and your school is giving you 10,000, then they would give you 21,000 to make up for the overall support of 30.
I think we lost Jessica. I'm sure she'll be joining us again shortly. In the meantime, Angie, would you have any information to add about the Psychology Summer Institute that you think may be helpful for people?
Essentially, Jessica covered it. So the Psychology Summer Institute program is very different from the other 3 fellowships that she described. It is just a week-long opportunity in which all expenses are paid through the APA MFP program. But it is a great opportunity that I don't know a lot of people know about. I highly encourage everyone to look into it and consider applying it at any point. You can apply pre-graduation and also post-graduation, but it's just a great opportunity where you get one-on-one mentoring on maybe your dissertation or a research project that you're working on. If you're a clinical or a counseling student and part of your program requires applying for internship, it also, if you're a part of the PSI program, they send out your contact information and your research interests, like essentially your profile, to all APA accredited internship sites. And so that puts your name on their radar, which doesn't guarantee anything for you, but it's an added bonus, right? It puts your name out there. And then essentially sites will contact you just with their brochure, their materials, encouraging you to apply. It doesn't mean for sure you're going to get an interview or for sure you would match there, but your name is on their radar, which I think is really helpful and is kind of a cool thing. So if you have additional questions about that, I'm happy to talk about that. But it's different from the other fellowships that we're talking about where you're getting funding to go to school. This is more of a professional development opportunity in which all expenses are paid for that week that you go to DC and spend at the APA office.
Great, thank you so much, Angie. So if Jessica is able to rejoin us, she can continue telling you all about the APA Minority Fellowship Program during our discussion. If not, you have her contact information right there, and I know she's more than happy to share some more information. So next is myself. My name is Henry Willis, and I'm a second-year doctoral student in a clinical psychology program. I go to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And just broadly, my research interests are race-related stress, racial identity, and the associations these factors have with mental health and psychopathology within African Americans. I'm also really interested in thinking about reducing mental health disparities. And one avenue I'm looking into is using mobile interventions for evidence-based treatment. And so the fellowship that I'm going to be talking about is the Robert Wood Johnson is from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and it's called the Health Policy Research Scholars Program. So this is a new program. It's only in its second year. I actually got it last year, the first year it was created. And so broadly, HPRS is a leadership development opportunity for first and second year full-time doctoral students from underrepresented populations and or disadvantaged backgrounds. And so this program was really created to kind of give people from disadvantaged and underrepresented backgrounds access to a lot of different resources and training initiatives. Overall, you receive an annual stipend of up to $30,000 for up to 4 years, so $120,000 in all. Throughout your time in the program, you receive training in health policy translation, so figuring out how to take whatever your discipline is, whether it's clinical psychology, school psychology, and trying to really turn it into ways to impact laws and health policy. They also train students on how to disseminate their research, improve their communication skills, and devise ways to kind of build towards health equity or reducing health disparities in population health. This program really focuses on developing high-level leadership skills through professional coaching, network, and an advanced leadership curriculum. So what this means is that as a scholar in a program, you are, oh, sorry, Jessica.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I got cut off.
No, fine. So I'm sure everybody will be happy to hear from you during the discussion. So, yeah, so you really have a lot of in-person leadership sessions and institutes where they fly you out and really provide you with a lot of resources and give you a lot of different connections with a lot of different people from different backgrounds. There's also a distance-based learning using interactive technology component. So as a scholar in a program, you are expected to take this 1 hour online class. It's created by the people who run the program, so it's really like a family atmosphere. It isn't like a graduate class where you have homework and it's not intense, but it's really to really supplement whatever your home-based training is with training in health policy also. And speaking about your home-based training, the really great thing about this program is that it allows you to continue working from your home institution while also applying some new things in real time to whatever you're doing, whether it's research or teaching or clinical practice. And this program also allows you to receive dissertation support and mentoring. So when you are in that dissertation phase, for one, you can apply for a competitive dissertation grant of up to $10,000. So this is in addition to the $30,000 a year that you already receive. And in order to apply for your dissertation, just has to address health policy or health disparities in some type of way. And you also receive resources such as being connected with other PhD students from across the country, forming writing groups, and really forming a dissertation retreat even over the summer to kind of help you really bang out the dissertation and to help you graduate. So consider applying if you are a full-time doctoral student and you can be either in your first or second year of your program. If you're from an underrepresented population or disadvantaged background. So this goes beyond just being from a racial ethnic minority. This could also mean being a first generation college student. This makes you eligible. Having a low income background makes you eligible. So really, I encourage you all to look on the website and really look at what makes you eligible for this program. If you really have a passion and would like to lead and collaborate across sectors, professions, and disciplines, this will be a really good program for you. If you're interested in thinking about how you can engage and develop policy that's supported by research that really supports community-led action, this would also be a good fit for you. And if you would like to apply your research to influence policy related to population health, health equity, and thinking about the social determinants of health. If you want to learn how to frame systemic issues such as racism and build policy solutions to these issues, this program will help you do that. And this program really demonstrates a deep understanding of the root causes of inequity. And it really pushes you to think about the culture of health, physical and mental health and social health, using research and other concepts. So some recommendations for applying. Make sure you explore how you can use your discipline and potential training to advance a culture of health. So thinking about how you can use your background, whether it's clinical psychology or school psychology, to really impact policy and practices. When you are applying, make sure you emphasize that you're from a research-based discipline. So even if you are in a clinical psychology program like me, you really want to talk less about that one-on-one kind of focus or going into a therapy room, and really try to look at the big picture. So how can you use your research to kind of change the way mental health treatments are conducted across the country? How can you use your research to really think about how to reduce disparities in maybe access to mental health, or changing school curriculums based on your research, something along those lines. So yeah, really try to get out of that one-on-one type of frame of thinking. You want to emphasize the importance of resolving disparities and using an interdisciplinary approach. So the really great thing about this program is that once you get accepted, you really kind of join a cohort of other first and second year doctoral students who are also from underrepresented and disadvantaged backgrounds. And the really cool thing about that is that all of these people come from different disciplines. So this program is consisted of people who study education, who study like travel logistics and urban planning, sociology, neurology, neuropsychology, like you name it. And it's really great to be in a room full of people doing different things, but you all still have this kind of similar background. And so my contact information is there. I'm happy to share my materials just like everybody else has stated. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask now or shoot me an email. And so now we're going to start with the questions. And so first, I want to allow Jessica a couple of minutes if she had any couple of things to just kind of wrap up, since we did have that unfortunate disconnection. I want to give her some space to do that.
When your Wi-Fi won't let you be great, man. Okay, I'm not really sure where I stopped. So I am here if anybody would like for me to read their documents. I have all of my documents. And then, did you all hear the part about the internship resources that MFP assists with?
I'm not sure if we did.
Okay, so that's the other thing that I wanted to say that was great about MFP, is that when I applied for internship, they were amazing about providing us support, providing us readers, connecting us with other MFP alum who had matched at similar sites. So I wanted to do a BOP, Bureau of Prisons site. And so I was very blessed and fortunate that there were alum who had matched at BOP sites who were willing to let me see their documents, provide me with samples, kind of explain the lay of the land for me. And then MFP does an excellent job of kind of seeing what you're interested in and then taking it the extra step and connecting you with alumni that are either in that field or who could read your materials for that And so that was an amazing blessing. And then I was talking about the annual kind of 1 week in DC that they provide us to go to where you can meet other fellows. And then I just can't really remember everything else I said. It was, man, my Wi-Fi. But to the part of what Henry said, I'm glad he said that. And so, all right, it all works out together. MFP is kind of different from the other fellowships because I come from a clinical background. The only research I've done is my dissertation. And so with MFP, I was really able to talk more about the clinical aspect. And so what I like to tell everybody is tell these individuals why you want to be a psychologist and how they can help support you become the type of psychologist that you want to be, right? And so that's what they're looking for. I think they're looking for people who are committed to helping individuals break free from the cycle of substance use, and then also who are really passionate about psychology. And so that's why I try to encourage everyone. You want to show them who you are, why you do what you do, and why you love what you do, and how you want to use your love and passion for psychology to partner with individuals who have substance use disorder or diagnoses, and how you can help them get to where they'd like to be. And so I think it's different in that sense, where I didn't have any research experience and I didn't really talk about my research, but more about how I am as a clinician and how I was going to use their funds to kind of enhance my journey to becoming a psychologist and partnering with people. I think that's a big thing with MFP. It's not this kind of superior kind of standpoint. We're not these clinicians who don't leave our offices and kind of meet people where they are, but this idea that we're partnering with individuals on their mental health journey is a really big, strong theme of MFP. So yeah, that's all about that.
All right, thank you so much. I have a couple questions for Angie. And the first one is, what's the timeline for applying for your source of funding?
All right. So you want to apply early, because chances are you're going to have to go through a revision process, and you want to give yourself that time to revise, which could take potentially another year. You want to apply as early as you can so that you can give yourself that time. So I would suggest, like I was saying, if you want to get out in like a 5-year period, you might want to consider applying like in year 2 or year 3, so that you're not prolonging your time in graduate school.
Thank you. And a follow-up is there a suggested number of publications to be competitive for the award? And if so, how many?
So if you ask anyone about this, they would probably say no, but our advisor, both Yoanna and I have the same advisor, review grants, and he was at a workshop or a meeting where for the first time some sort of guidelines were provided. And this was a few years ago, so this may have changed already, but for F31s, which are predoctoral grants, he heard that having 3 first author publications will help you to be competitive. And then for F32s, having 6 first author publications. Now that's going to be dependent on what year in your program that you're applying. So the earlier you're applying in your program, probably the less expectation that you have a large number of publications. Obviously, if you're late in your program, there would be more expectation that you would have some publications. So that's just something to think about. And obviously that it's variable. Like I know people who've gotten F31s who didn't have 3 first author publications. I know people who've gotten F31s who've had a lot of publications. So it's variable, but that's kind of like a general guideline that has been shared.
Thank you. This next question is broadly for anybody. Given that a lot of our different sources of funding have to do with being a minority or being from an underrepresented background, what are some effective ways to talk about your background in these applications? And what are some effective ways to kind of blend your research and your background when you are thinking about applying to these different sources of funding? And you can think in terms of your source of funding, and you can also share as much as you feel comfortable sharing. And I'll go first. I know for me, the HPRS application really asks you a lot of personal questions. And so it was really easy to talk about my background. So one of the essay questions really asks about specifically how being from an underrepresented group kind of impacted your career trajectory and impacted the kind of things you want to study. So it was really easy to talk about being an African American from a low income background, first generation college student, and how that led me to want to look at mental health disparities. And they also ask you about overcoming a personal challenge and how that may have affected you. So I think it really depends on the application and the place you're applying to. I don't think you should be as personal if you're applying to something like the NSF if they don't specifically or explicitly ask you about your background, but you should still find ways, like a lot of people have talked about, kind of blending those two together and putting it in your application. And maybe some of the other speakers have suggestions about maybe how they talked about their background in effective ways in applications.
Hi, everyone. This is Jessica. So I can talk about with MFP. I think that what I was saying earlier is very much reflective of how MFP kind of supports communities. It's more about a partnership. And so I think I explicitly stated in my cover letter, I was trying to look and see, like find it really quickly, but I think I talked a lot about partnering and kind of why going to grad school for me as a African-American female from a single parent urban neighborhood was very important, and kind of talked about why it was important for me to go to grad school and complete grad school and then eventually come back and be a mentor, because I saw very few individuals from my same population going even to college. And so I specifically stated and talked about what it felt like to be a statistic and what it felt like when people kind of came in and had assumptions about me and weren't willing to partner with me. And so I just went ahead and put it out there, and then also talked about previous work that I've done and why I'm so committed to the partnership that I have with my clients, because I don't want to demean or come into a situation and believe that I have all of the answers, because I've been on the receiving end of people coming in and telling me or my family or my community how we need to do things and how we need to fix things, but they haven't even sat down and figured out what our names are. And so with MFP, I very specifically stated that, not as eloquently as that, because clearly my writing has improved. Thank you, little baby Jesus. But yeah, with MFP, I just put it all out there and kind of came from that standpoint, as opposed to, what is the word that I'm looking for? Patronizing or victimizing the population and leaving them in a certain role, but talking about individuals as my partners on their mental health journey and how we empower individuals to eventually not even need us anymore or want to come and see us anymore, because they've created a space of healing for themselves outside of our offices.
Thank you. Anyone else have responses on that question before we wrap up?
Yeah, this is Yoanna. So in the diversity supplement, there's a couple spots where it's pretty easy to put it in there, like the eligibility letter. So you have to submit an eligibility letter from your mentor, why you fit for the application. And so in there, it's pretty explicit. We also included a statement in the mentoring section of our research plan about, my minority status and how that's underrepresented in the research workforce, and how this application could really help enhance the goal of the supplement, which is to increase diversity in the. So in my situation, there was like open areas to make it pretty explicit. So yeah.
And mine is similar. So for an F30, if it wasn't the F31 to promote diversity, there would be no mention of diversity unless that was part of your project. In my situation, my research project, my proposed research project didn't have anything to do with diversity, but I did have to submit a letter proving that I was eligible for this award. So essentially, I had somebody from the institution write that I received a minority fellowship. It was kind of weird having someone else have to verify that I'm Black and that I meet criteria for this this award, but that's essentially how it was done. And then also similarly, my advisor wrote in his letter, similar to Yoanna's, about how me receiving this award would help diversify the field, which is, and like cited the goal, the NIH goal to do that.
So we are out of questions. We only have a few minutes left. Does anyone have any parting comments, suggestions, advice that they would like to give to folks?
One thing I would add for the MFP scholarship, so I appreciate that Jessica shared that the MFP scholarships are focused more for people clinically oriented. And I think, because this was my understanding, was that the PSI program, which is different from those fellowship programs where it's just 1 week that you go to DC, I think that opportunity is typically for people who are more research oriented. And so like for me, since I'm more research oriented, I wouldn't be eligible to apply for some of the other MFP scholarship or fellowships. So if you are more research oriented, the MFPsi program would be a great opportunity for you to look into. But I know that there are also people who are not necessarily research oriented, like if they have policy ideas or teaching focus, they're also eligible to apply for PSI as well. Program, I highly, highly recommend you apply. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
I would just really encourage everyone to really reach out to us and kind of really use us as a resource. I know sometimes people might feel a little awkward or feel like, well, they don't really know me, but we are here because we actually want to see you all get all of this money. It's out there. We want you to get it. And so I just want to encourage everyone to really use our emails and to really ask us for application materials and not to be overwhelmed or to feel nervous, because we really do want to talk to you. We do want to get to know you. And I've had the very fortunate pleasure of starting even mentor relationships with individuals who just started by asking me for my application. And now I'm talking to them, helping them prepare for comps, helping them prepare for internship. So I just really want to encourage individuals, like, you're not alone. You're not the first person who has applied for these opportunities, and so please use us. I know I can speak personally for myself. I spent a lot of time on my documents, both internship and MFP. So I would love to share them with as many people as possible, because I'm talking about 6 months plus on these documents. So please reach out to us. And then I also just want to encourage everyone, like Angie talked about, and I think Effua talked about as well, even if you don't get it the first time, that's okay. I just want to encourage you all to keep trying, and don't let a no the first time discourage you. Yeah.
Yeah, persistence is key. Yeah, I know I can speak personally for me. I don't care if you're watching this 2 years from now, please feel free to reach out if you have questions. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be a resource. And with that, I think we will call it a night. I want to say thank you to everyone, all of the speakers who were able to be here. This was valuable information. I think Jessica has one last thing.
Oh, no, I was just waving goodbye.
All right. All right, goodbye, everybody. I'm going to translate Jessica's goodbyes via voice so you can hear that. Everybody's waving goodbye. All right, have a good night.